on the actual volume fader. So when I load it up, the rough mix, it plays back just like the rough mix does, but now they're all calibrated so that way going into whatever plugins I'll put in there, I know that they're at the input level that I want.
Wow.
So I can very quickly just be like, ooh, I think this could be really cool with Sketch Cassette. And I try it and then, nope, that sucks. And I turn it back off rather than putting it on and then having to clip gain things and trying to make
Wow.
You've
got it down, man.
Yeah. And then the third level that we just started doing is I have him go through all of the, I'd say like lead vocals or like prominent vocals. And I have him splice all of the S's and F's. So he doesn't remove them. He just literally will like make a little like, split the region point at the beginning and the end. So that way when I'm going through, if I need to clip gain something, if there's like an S or an F sticking out, I don't have to stop and like zoom in and scroll through and try to find it. Like I can see, as like the first word of that line, boom, it's already there. I click it, clip gain it down, boom. Because then that enables me to not push de-essers as hard.
Right.
Which we all know if you push a de-esser, tiny little bit too much, and then your whole mix just kind of crumbles into a god-awful mess.
That's so true. De-essing is like it's such a simple thing, but it could just like F up like what would otherwise be an amazing vocal.
Yeah, that's been my very unsexy like skill growth focus for the past couple of months is de-essing. Just trying different things and trying to get better at that. And
what's your favorite de-esser? Tell me what to use.
I don't have one yet. I've been trying there's the Isotope RX de-esser, the Waves Sibilance, Pro MB, and also I got Soothe 2. I've been experimenting with different combinations, doing different amounts of de-essing, and haven't found anything I'm super in love with yet. It all takes some finessing, but I think that also might be because it's 2020, so a lot of artists are recording themselves at home. So there's not as, the percentage of home recorded vocals that I'm being sent to mix is a lot higher than it might have been a year ago. So there are issues that had the vocalist gone into a studio with a proper engineer, these issues wouldn't even be, they wouldn't be, they'd be non-issues. So that might be a little bit of the difficulties. I'm just trying to figure out how to fix a new problem every time. It's always like a de-essing problem, but it's different because it's
always the TLM 103, man.
It's always the SM7 from this close.
Oh, really? Is it?
Oh yeah, I get proximity effect is a thing, and it drives me crazy.
You know what? That's why all these new artists that are just buying the SM7 should get the RE20, because the RE20 has no proximity effect. It is a idiot-proof microphone, and so you're hearing the RE20 now, listeners. It's the best, in my opinion. It's the best dynamic.
And now, from a word from our sponsor.
Yeah, seriously.
No, that's...
Oh, man. I got way too techie, specific gear-wise there. I apologize.
I went on a short little rant about using 4 different de-essers and how I'm never happy. So I feel like I did way worse of a...
No.
of a nerd job there.
No, the SM7 is a great mic. You could buy that also, but listen to Carl's advice first. Wow, it's interesting that you brought up how you've had more and more artists working from home. What has been your experience with that? Like, what have been the benefits, downsides? I feel like that's going to be even more and more also.
I think honestly the benefit is I feel like the artists have been much more receptive to learning and developing their skills beyond their artistry. So I feel like they've been trying to figure out the technology of Zoom calls, or even within the audio side of things, like they've been trying to get better at production. Even if their goal isn't to ever be a producer, they've been developing those skills. And I'm always a big supporter of that, of them, of that self-education and that, I don't want to say trial by fire, but they're in a situation where they have to do it themselves, or have to do as much as they can themselves because A, they can't go to a studio, or B, money's a lot more tight than before because they've been laid off for the past 2 months. So so seeing this renewal of intent and self-education has been fantastic. I think that's been the best thing about, one of the silver linings, I guess, of the shitstorm that we're going through. I think that's been great. And I feel like from a business standpoint for myself, I feel like people are much more willing to try to pull the trigger on working with a remote mixer or remote producer that before this, maybe that would have seemed too sketchy, or they would have been too nervous about it. And now it's pretty much what they have to do, so that their defenses are down relative to what it would have been like a year ago. So it's a lot easier to convince somebody that's never worked remotely to work remotely now.
Have you always worked remotely?
No. I mean, honestly, the production and mixing stuff, I'd say it's only been maybe 3 or 4 years that it's been about 3 or 4 years since it started eclipsing drumming for me as like my source of income. So at first it was a lot of local artists, or it was artists that were semi-local and would drive an hour and a half to come to the studio with me. But I guess from doing those remixes and having the remixes be like some of the first real projects that I had done, the first like serious projects that I had done, the idea of collaborating remotely with somebody that I may never meet in person, that wasn't as weird to me because that was just what I did. So even though I have had a lot of, in-person, face-to-face clients, I feel like the idea of remote working just felt normal to me. And I think that's why I had a hard time at first when I was really trying to push doing more remote mixing for clients. I had a hard time convincing them to take the chance to work with me, because I just genuinely didn't understand why they would be weird about hiring someone remotely. Like it just never, the ignorance, I guess, that I had, that it just never occurred to me is, oh yeah, people are shady and people will try to take advantage of other people, especially the music industry, trying to prey on, young people with big aspirations. And, trying to make sure that, obviously I don't want to be that type of person, but also making sure that whoever I'm talking to feels very comfortable and confident that I'm not that type of person. That became a much bigger element of my sales tactic. I don't know what you want to call that.
Pitch.
My pitch, yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Do you find that you need to get on Zoom and just have conversations with potential artists?
Oh yeah, whenever I can get on a Zoom call with a potential client, that's the best. I mean, just putting a face to the name is great. Like there's very few remote artists that I've ever worked with that I haven't actually done some kind of Zoom call or something with. It's weird to me if you don't. I think that's the part that makes even me uncomfortable, is working with somebody purely through email or text, but not actually doing phone calls, or not actually doing a video call.
Right. That's something I've recently stepped up also is, if I think Nicholas was actually talking about this on his episode of the podcast, how he just if the response in the email is gonna be more than 5 sentences, I'm just getting on the call and calling them.
Yeah.
And I was really that really moved me. It's okay, I feel like there could be a lack of communication here. Let's just jump on a Zoom.
Yeah.
And it'll be easier. It'll be more clear.
And especially once the mix process is underway and we go to do revisions, oh my God, Zoom, like a round of revisions, if they send me a list of notes, it might take me, 15 minutes to actually knock them out. Zoom call might take 30 minutes, but pretty much guarantees there are not going to be any more revisions after that. Or if there are, it's going to be oh, I was wrong about that tambourine part. Can you bring it back down? It's just especially having them on the call, hearing it in real time, even though there's still a little bit of compression from it, from a streaming, but having them be able to hear it in stereo, be able to react in real time, you being able to solo things if there's depending on what their production vocabulary is, if they don't know how to describe what they're trying to get across, or they're describing one of 7 snare drums and that they sent over and you don't know which one they mean, you can just click solo through them and find the one that they're talking about, and it saves.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Long term saves so much time.
Well, you're just doing that through Zoom, or do you use Audio Movers or one of those other companies?
I've just been using Zoom. I haven't had any issues with it. I'm sure there are better ways to do it, but so far it hasn't been an issue. And for people that maybe their first Zoom call was with me, the more simple I can keep it, the better.
Yeah.
I would rather lose a little bit of the sonic quality and have them feel comfortable and not intimidated by the actual event.
Right.
Than have it be like super high quality, but they're stressed out because they can't get their drivers to play well or to play nicely with each other. Because we both know, I explained right in the beginning that, there is going to be a little bit of compression. So after we're done with this, I'll still send you I'll send you a proper bounce so you can listen to it and review it. But when they listen to it, they're going into it listening, knowing that we as a team addressed all of those notes. So that way, like they can almost sleep at night knowing that I paid attention to their concerns. Whereas I feel like a lot of times they'll send notes and they'll ask for something to be turned down or turned up. And as a mixing engineer, I think it's a subtle change, but what they really wanted was it like almost completely inaudible. And it ends up being like, oh, can you turn that down again? Oh, can you turn that down again? Oh, or the other way around. Can you turn it up, turn it up, turn it up? Like the backing vocals need to go way up or whatever. And I feel like I explained to them that they still have to listen to it on their own, but when they listen to it, they listen to it with this confidence of their own involvement in that revision process. And it usually, it makes getting from mix 1 to approved mix significantly faster.
That's amazing. That's great advice for all the listeners out there. A new way to do mix revisions.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, and I think if I were doing like mastering or something and I had to do a lot more clients, it would be a different story. But with this, I feel like I've gotten pretty quick with the actual mixes themselves. So that kind of buys me some time to be more intimate with the revision process with the client.
Yeah.
And I think because, 99% of my clientele is from word of mouth or happy return clients, the more FaceTime that I can spend with them, the more likely they're going to want to continue working with me anyway. Because
right.
Especially if it's someone that I've never met in person and our entire relationship is built remotely, the more FaceTime I can get, the more like collaborative we feel like we're attacking this as a team, that's going to help to solidify the future of that relationship.
Yeah, it's like our industry used to be built off of relationships, and now we're all kind of huddled in our little man caves, woman caves. Yeah, like you need to foster relationships, otherwise nothing's going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally dig what you're saying. Wait, so speaking of remote relationships, tell me about your connection with Nicholas DiLorenzo.
Oh, with Nick. So it's so funny. We met through a Facebook group, Make Pop Music, maybe a year and a half ago. This was back in, I guess, January 2019 or somewhere around there. I know our first project together was back then. And it was something where I think some of my friends had used him before, and I just saw his name a bunch, being tagged as a great mastering engineer. So I just reached out and, we started talking, and, you know Nick. So, he's just like super personable and just like a great, like he just makes you feel good about being alive when you talk to him. He's just like this, this great, like this teddy bear, this sarcastic, foul-mouthed teddy bear. And, and I just was like, you know what? I have this artist that I'm working with, and I had a mastering engineer in Philly that I was working with quite a bit. But I was like, well, this particular track, it's not really in his wheelhouse, and it's more electronic. And I'm also starting to get more of this like electronic pop stuff coming my way anyway. So, he has the budget to hire you. So let's try this out. And then, a year and a half later, I think I was saying before the show, I think we may have already hit the 100 projects together mark. Ooh. Or we're really close.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's so funny because we've never met in person, and we live, I think, 14 time zones apart, something like that. 'Cause he's in Melbourne, Australia.
I know.
And,
oh my God.
Yeah, but we talk multiple times a week. We're pretty much like texting almost every day during the week anyway. And then we're constantly working together, and the distance and the time zone difference has never been an issue.
Wow.
So I think...
I guess the America to Australia time zone is not as difficult as the Israel to Australia time zone, because I feel like I'm ending my day, or I'm just starting my day just as he's ending his day, whereas you might have like some overlap or something. Yeah,
because he usually... he's an early bird. He's, I think, usually starting at like 4:30 in the morning, his time. So we usually do catch each other. He's usually like passing out or already passed out by the time that I wake up. But then like my like late afternoon is when he's like really doing his communication stuff.